Stop everything you're doing right now. What I'm about to show you will completely blow your mind. The US government has been lying to you about one of the most famous battles in American history for over 150 years. And the real story is so brutal that they've kept it buried in classified documents and sanitized textbooks. You think you know what happened at Little Bighorn? You don't know anything. The truth is 100 times worse than what they taught you in school, and by the end of this video, you'll understand why they've worked so hard to cover it up. But you need to watch until the very end, because what happened after the battle is the real story, and it's absolutely horrifying. The lies start with the most basic facts. They told you it was a last stand. They told you Custer was a hero. They told you the Native Americans were savages who got lucky. Every single one of those things is a deliberate lie designed to hide the most shameful chapter in American military history and government conspiracy. It's a scorching hot day in June 1876. You're a 25-year-old cavalry soldier named John Martin, dust-caked on your face, your eyes, riding behind the most famous general in America. George Custer turns to you with that cocky grin he's known for and says, "Boys, we're about to make history. They'll write songs about what we do today." You believe him. Everyone does. This is the man who helped win the Civil War. The golden boy who never loses. You're riding with 268 other soldiers, and you're all thinking the same thing. By tonight, you'll be heroes. An hour later, you're dead, along with every single man riding beside you. But here's the thing, your death wasn't an accident. It wasn't bad luck. It wasn't even a fair fight gone wrong. You were sacrificed in a plan that started years before you even enlisted. A plan so twisted, so deliberately evil that when the truth finally comes out, it will shock the entire nation and expose the US government as liars and war criminals. This is the story they don't want you to know about Custer's last stand and the government cover-up that followed. Let me tell you about George Armstrong Custer, because the man you think you know never existed. The real Custer was born on a farm in Ohio in 1839, the son of a blacksmith who dreamed of greatness. From the time he could walk, George Custer was the kind of kid who couldn't sit still, couldn't follow rules, and absolutely couldn't stand being ignored. Teenage Custer at West Point Military Academy in 1857 was getting in trouble constantly. He got written up 726 times in 4 years, more infractions than any cadet before him. We're talking about a guy who once showed up to formation with his hair in curlers, who smuggled food into the barracks, who got caught reading novels during math class. When he wasn't breaking rules, Custer was brilliant. He could read a battlefield like a book, inspire men to follow him into hell, and fight with a fearlessness that bordered on insane. Then the Civil War erupted and everything changed. It's 1861 and 22-year-old Custer graduates dead, last in his class, but instead of being sent home in disgrace, thrown straight into the bloodiest war in American history. While other officers played it safe, Custer charged straight into Confederate lines with his golden hair flowing behind him like a battle flag. At the Battle of Gettysburg in 1863, when the fate of the entire war hung in the balance, Custer didn't hesitate. Confederate cavalry was thundering toward Union lines, trying to attack from behind and win the war. Every other Union officer was calculating, hesitating, thinking. Not Custer. He spurs his horse forward and screams, "Come on, you Wolverines! We can take them!" His charge broke the Confederate attack and helped save the Union. By the time Robert E. Lee surrendered, George Custer was the youngest general in U.S. history and the most famous soldier in America. But when the war ended, the Army stuck their golden boy out west to fight Indians, a job he considered beneath him. Custer had no idea this assignment would make him the most famous dead man in America. Indian agents who worked directly with the tribes sent desperate messages to Washington. This ultimatum is impossible to fulfill. These people will die if they try to travel in these conditions. The response from Washington was chilling. The deadline stands. It was a setup, pure and simple. The government had created a situation where compliance was impossible, giving them the excuse they needed to declare war. When January 31st came and went, the War Department issued a statement that would seal the fate of thousands. All roaming bands of Sioux and Cheyenne are now considered hostile. Military action is authorized. The trap was sprung. After years of careful planning, broken promises, and deliberate provocation, the government finally had their excuse to take the Black Hills by force. When spring came in 1876, Sitting Bull sent word across the plains, "Come to me, all who refuse to live in cages. This may be our last summer as free people." And they came. From every corner of the West, Lakota, Cheyenne, Arapaho, even some Blackfoot from the North. Entire villages packed up and made the dangerous journey to Sitting Bull's camp. By late spring of 1876, Sitting Bull had united the fractured tribes of the Great Plains into a single massive force. Among the warriors who answered Sitting Bull's call was a young Oglala Lakota named Crazy Horse. If Sitting Bull was the strategic mastermind, Crazy Horse was the perfect weapon. His fellow warriors claimed he had supernatural powers in battle, that he could see his enemies' moves before they made them, that bullets couldn't touch him. Crazy Horse's military record was undeniable. He had never lost a battle, never retreated, never shown fear. The government's response was massive. This was total war, designed to crush Native American resistance once and for all. General Philip Sheridan laid out the strategy. We must make the Indians feel the superior power of the government. If we can kill or capture enough of their warriors, the rest will submit. 3 armies would converge, 925 men under General Terry, with Custer commanding the 7th Cavalry from the east, General Gibbon with 450 soldiers from the west, and General Crook with 1,300 troops from the south. Nearly 3,000 soldiers with the most advanced military equipment of the era, all converging on one target. On June 17, 1876, General Crook's army was camped along the Rosebud River, confident they were hunting scattered bands of hostiles who would flee at the first sight of blue uniforms. They were wrong. It's dawn on a beautiful summer morning. Crook's 1,300 soldiers are eating breakfast, preparing for what they think will be an easy day. Suddenly, scouts come riding into camp, screaming warnings. On the hills around them, warriors are appearing, hundreds of them, painted for war, weapons ready. What happened next defied everything the army thought they knew about Indian warfare. Crazy Horse ordered a full frontal assault on an American army. 1,500 Lakota and Cheyenne warriors thundered down from the hills, war cries echoing across the valley, charging straight into Crook's formation. Indians were supposed to be afraid of organized military units. Crazy Horse had apparently never read that manual. What followed was 6 hours of the most intense fighting the frontier had ever seen. Crazy Horse's tactics were unlike anything the army had encountered. His warriors attacked in coordinated waves from multiple directions. The soldiers described it as fighting a ghost army. Warriors would appear, strike, and vanish, only to reappear somewhere else. By afternoon, General Crook realized something terrifying. He wasn't winning. His army was being outfought by an enemy they had dismissed as primitive savages. After losing 57 men, Crook retreated. But here's the most important part. Crook never reported his defeat to the other commanders. His pride couldn't handle admitting that Indians had beaten him. When Custer rode toward Sitting Bull's camp a week later, he had no idea what he was walking into. He thought he was hunting scattered bands of demoralized Indians. In reality, he was approaching the largest, most confident, and most militarily successful Native American force in history. While Crook was licking his wounds, Sitting Bull's camp was celebrating. Word of Crazy Horse's triumph spread like wildfire. Even more warriors flocked to join the gathering. By late June, the camp along the Little Bighorn River had become unprecedented, a city of teepees stretching over 3 miles, housing more than 8,000 people. This was larger than most American cities of the era. During the Sundance ceremony, something legendary happened. Sitting Bull participated in the most grueling test of spiritual endurance known to his people. For hours, he danced around the sacred pole while his adopted brother cut small pieces of flesh from his arms as an offering to the Great Spirit. As he danced, bleeding and exhausted, Sitting Bull suddenly stopped. His eyes rolled back, and he began speaking in a voice his people didn't recognize. When he came out of the trance, Sitting Bull described a vision. I saw soldiers falling into our camp like grasshoppers falling from the sky. They fell upside down, which means they were dying. The Great Spirit is giving them to us. Modern historians believe Sitting Bull saw the Battle of Little Bighorn 3 days before it happened. Meanwhile, General Terry and Custer were approaching with 925 men, confident they were about to win an easy victory. On June 22nd, Terry held a final strategy meeting. The plan was simple. Terry would approach from the north, Custer would attack from the south. The Indians would be caught between 2 forces. Military intelligence suggested they were pursuing maybe 800 warriors scattered across several small camps. The reality was over 2,000 warriors united in one massive camp. Terry gave Custer specific orders. Wait for Terry and Gibbon to arrive before attacking. Custer's response should have been a warning. General, you need not worry about me. I'll not be caught napping. As Custer prepared to leave, General Gibbon called out, Now, Custer, don't be greedy. Save some Indians for the rest of us. Custer's reply was chilling. No, I will not. Nobody realized he had just told them exactly what he planned to do. ignore orders, attack alone, and claim all the glory for himself. On June 23rd, Custer led his 700 men following the trail left by Sitting Bull's massive camp. The trail was unlike anything the scouts had ever seen, hundreds of feet wide, marked by thousands of tracks. A veteran scout named White Swan approached Custer. "General, this trail is too big. Too many Indians. Maybe we should wait." Custer dismissed the warning. "Nonsense. The more Indians we find, the greater our victory will be." Military experts who later analyzed the evidence estimated that the camp included at least 8,000 people. Custer was following tracks of a force that outnumbered his command by more than 10 to 1. On June 24th, they could see smoke on the horizon from what appeared to be a massive encampment. Bloody Knife, the scout who had become Custer's friend, made one final attempt to warn him. "General, there are too many of them. We should wait for Terry and Gibbon." Custer's response revealed everything. "Bloody Knife? I've never lost a battle, and I'm not about to start now. Besides, if we wait, they might escape, and Terry will get the credit." That night, Custer made the decision that would doom them all. Instead of waiting for reinforcements as ordered, he would attack at dawn. He had no idea he was about to lead 268 men to their deaths. June 25, 1876, dawned clear and hot. As Custer's men prepared for battle, none knew they were living their last hours. At dawn, scouts climbed up the Crow's Nest and saw the largest Indian encampment any had ever seen. Thousands of teepees arranged in tribal circles stretched for 3 miles. Major Reno would take 175 men and attack the southern end. Captain Benteen would take 3 companies and sweep south to prevent escape. Custer himself would take 268 men and attack the northern end. Against 2,000-plus warriors who had just defeated General Crook's army, it was suicide. At 3 p.m., Major Reno led his 175 men in a charge toward Sitting Bull's camp. Riding beside him was Bloody Knife. Reno's cavalry thundered across the prairie, confident they were about to scatter frightened Indians. They were wrong. As Reno's men approached, they could see organized military response. Warriors were grabbing weapons and mounting horses. The first shots came from Lakota warriors positioned along the tree line. Several soldiers fell immediately. Reno ordered his men to dismount and form a defensive line. Led by Gall, Sitting Bull's lieutenant, hundreds of mounted warriors swept around Reno's flanks. These weren't primitive fighters, many carried the latest Winchester rifles. Sitting Bull rode into battle to protect his people. He sent his nephew with a white flag to negotiate safe passage for civilians. The soldiers shot him down. Then an American bullet killed Sitting Bull's favorite horse. "They have shot my favorite horse," he told his warriors. "It is like they have shot me. Now we fight." Gall and Crazy Horse led a counterattack that overwhelmed Reno's position. Warriors swept around both flanks, while others provided covering fire. Within minutes, Reno's men were surrounded and taking heavy casualties. As Reno tried to figure out what to do, he was talking with Bloody Knife when disaster struck. A Lakota bullet caught the scout in the head, killing him instantly. Blood and brain matter splattered across Reno's face. Bloody Knife's death shattered Reno's resolve. "Any man who wishes to make his escape, follow me," he screamed, abandoning the battle. His men threw down weapons and ran for the river. The river crossing was a slaughter. Of 175 men who started the attack, only about 100 made it to the hilltop. Meanwhile, Captain Benteen was supposed to be helping Custer, but he hated Custer and wanted to see him fail. When Custer charged down toward the river with 268 men, he was completely alone. When news reached the East Coast on July 4th, 1876, America's centennial celebration, the nation went into shock. How could the most famous general in America be wiped out by primitive Indians? The answer was simple, but too embarrassing to admit. They had been outfought, outthought, and outmaneuvered by superior military minds. Instead of acknowledging Native American military genius, the cover-up began immediately. Some blamed Custer for being reckless. Others blamed Reno and Benteen for cowardice. But almost nobody gave credit to Sitting Bull, Crazy Horse, and Gall, who had orchestrated one of the most brilliant military victories in American history. The real story, the government conspiracy, the broken treaties, the deliberate provocation, was buried in classified files and sanitized textbooks. For 150 years, Americans have been told a lie about what happened at Little Bighorn. Drop a comment below and tell me, what shocked you most about this story? Did you have any idea the government had planned this betrayal from the beginning? I read every single comment, and your thoughts helped me decide which buried truths to uncover next. Hit that notification bell, because next week I'm revealing what the US military did to Sitting Bull's people after Little Bighorn, and it's going to make this video look tame by comparison. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. Until next time, Keep questioning everything they taught you because the truth is always stranger and more shocking than the lies.